Hello lovely people, welcome to the Geek Cupboard. I'm Penge and welcome to day 2 of the Geek Cupboard's Fes-tea-ve Advent Countdown 2022. So here we are back again with the wonderful T2 Sip the Future calendar with the friendly hello on it and also a little smiley face as well. That's quite nice. Now just before we dive in, I have changed the camera angle a bit on this. When I was editing yesterday's video, so day 1 of the Fes-tea-ve Advent Countdown 2022, the camera angle was very much straight down and I didn't like it very much. I didn't like it. I kind of did it so I could try to fit the entirety of this calendar in, but I don't think it worked with the whole tea drinking bit because it felt a bit impersonal because the camera was pointing directly down on the mug rather than at an angle. So it felt a bit weird. I didn't really like that. So I've changed the camera angle a bit so it's back in its regular position. Hopefully it'll work out okay. I mean, right now it's fine because we can see the advent calendar and that's all good. But I think when we come to the tea drinking bit, it'll be more sort of at an angle and it'll look a bit more natural rather than facing right down, directly looking down into the mug itself. It'll be at an angle. It feels a bit more personal that way. So I've changed it around a bit. Hopefully it sort of works out okay. But here we go. Day 2, let's go and have a look at this, shall we? I mean, again, this thing is huge. It's a massive, great big thing that does not fit on the camera in one go. Right, where is number 2? Here we go. Right, so just coming over this way a bit. I have to be very careful because this thing is it's massive, this thing. It's just a giant calendar. There is number 2 just there that says, be a volunteer. Now, I'm not going to do that today, but I do help out quite a lot with the kids when they do their sort of their cubs and their beavers. So yeah, both kids are now a part of the scout movement, which is very good. So yeah, I help out quite a bit there. I go and one of the parent helpers and I join in and I make sure the kids are behaving. And the other day I went with my daughter who's just joined Beavers. We went to the local shop and they bought some food for homeless people. It was all very lovely. And then yeah, I help out with cubs as well, which is sort of the next step up. So if you don't know the scouting movement, you start off, I think there is a new one now. I think there is one for really teeny tiny kids if they want to join. I'm not quite sure what that is, but normally I think so. You start at Beavers and then you go to Cubs and then you go to Scouts and the next Explorers after that. So as you get older, you move through. So yeah, so I help out with Cubs as well quite a lot. So I go and just join in on the Monday night things and we do fun stuff and it's good. But that's my volunteering. That's what I do. I did it last week. I did it last week. No, I did it. Last week. Did it on Monday. So yeah, it's all fine. So here we go. Let's open this one up. I've done the being a volunteer thing. So let's open it up and we'll see what today's tea is. What do we have? Hang on. I like the fact you get a little sort of quote before you find out what the tea is. Is that going to focus in okay? Yes. The soul of the home is a good cup of tea. Is that what the last one said? I can't remember if that's what the last one said. I'm not entirely sure. Okay, the other good thing about the camera being in a slightly different place is that I can actually see it. So previously the camera was like, I can't even show you because I can't get it on camera. The camera was really high up because it was dangling off a shelf and pointing downwards. So I couldn't see. So yesterday I couldn't see what this sort of recording was like, whereas now it's kind of more in front of my face, so I can actually see that that's in focus or whatever. Okay, so let's turn over. It's another Tisane, I think it's pronounced, people have said. So what have we got today? We've got lemongrass and ginger. Now, typically in the past, that's been really good. That's been really nice. But yeah, we'll try the T2 one with a hint of zest and a whole lot of spicy, bright lemongrass. This brew smacks you sideways with a refreshing sensation that's as vibrant as it is engaging. Pucker up. Smacks me sideways. Good grief. Okay. Hey, look, it's got like serving recommendations. Enjoy with, perfect on its own, or with a drizzle of honey. Oh, I don't. Hang on, I'm not holding that in the right place. Should I put a bit of honey in it? I mean, I do like a bit of honey, but then is that going to impair the flavour of the tea on its own? Do you know what? I won't go with the honey. We'll have it as it is. It should be okay. So, yeah, regular brew time, 3 to 5 minutes. Yeah, okay, right. Let's go and get this sorted. So now I think we all know what's going to happen. We need to go to the kettle. And here we are with our lovely freshly brewed cup of lemongrass and ginger tea, and I like this camera angle way more. It's way better, it's more friendly and more personable, isn't it? It's just a lot nicer. So yeah, when I was editing together the video for yesterday, so day 1 of the Fes-tea-ve Advent Countdown 2022, when we got to the whole tea drinking bit, the camera was kind of pointing right down into the mug, wasn't it? A bit like this. I can't tip the mug up too much because I will pour tea all over the desk and that would be silly, but it was kind of looking right down into the mug and I didn't really like it. I didn't feel that was the right way that we should be doing stuff. This is much better. It feels more like we're sitting together around a table. You can see the mug and it feels more normal. Whereas when it was like that, it was a bit more like, you're hanging down off the ceiling, peering into the mug from above, which is a bit weird. So I like this a lot more. So there we go. Hopefully that feels a little bit more sort of friendly and kind of back to normal. So there we go. Wonderful. And in terms of the tea, it does smell very nice. Again, it's got quite a strong smell to it. It smells very lemony indeed, as you would expect, because it's got lemongrass in, but it must have quite a lot of lemongrass in, or some very pungent lemongrass, because it's got quite a strong smell to it. It's not bad though. It's a nice smell. It's very lemony. I can't smell the ginger, so I imagine the ginger is going to be in the tasting. It's one of those sort of herbal tisane teas, or how we pronounce it again. Somebody did say, I think it was tisane. Did somebody say in the comments it was tisane possibly? But whatever the case, it's a herbal tea. So let's have a taste, shall we? I mean, it smells very lemony, so I'm expecting much in the way of lemon, but we shall have a quick taste just to see. Okay, yes, lemon. Can't really taste too much ginger. Oh no, hang on. Hang on, now I've said that. Okay, the ginger is the aftertaste. The ginger is the aftertaste, I would say. So hang on. Need to go in for number 2. Yeah, definitely. So the ginger's the sort of the aftertaste to it. So you get the initial lemony flavour. It's quite nice. It's quite it's a nice sort of refreshing, like a palate cleanser, you could say. It's a very sort of clean, refreshing drink. But yeah, it's got the lemony hit at the start, and that's quite strong. It's got a strong lemony flavour. And then you think, yeah, okay, that's nice and lemony. And then, yeah, just as you sort of think, that's all it is, you then get a bit of a gentle ginger sort of, a bit of ginger spice to it. It's not strong though. It's quite subtle, the ginger. It's not a strong gingery flavour. Because I suppose, maybe this is more about the lemongrass rather than the ginger. So there's a bit of a gingery kind of hit to it, but it's not too strong. It doesn't overpower the lemongrass, which is quite nice. Do you know what? That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, it's just a nice kind of lemony cup of tea. I don't think it's as good as yesterday's one. Yesterday's one did set the bar quite high. The Packs of Peach, was it called? That was really good. That was really nice and very interesting, very fruity. This one is okay. It's a lovely standard, quite clean, quite refreshing cup of tea. It's very nice. So here we go. Let's go to today's question, shall we? Which comes from Alex Peacham, who's been around on the channel forever. Thank you, Alex. You've been around since pretty much the beginning, I think. And you're still here. Well done. You've got a lot of patience. So, okay, so they say, "Hi, Penge. I have a question for you. What has been your TV highlight of 2022? It could be streaming like Netflix or terrestrial." Okay, so I've got a mix of these. I've kind of, I've picked a few highlights. I haven't just gone for one. I've picked a few. So some are going to be some relatively standard things. Some might be a bit sort of, oh, okay, never heard of that. So Stranger Things Series 4, I think it was. That's the most recent one, isn't it? Yeah, I'm fairly sure it's Series 4. Was excellent. It was really, really good. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was well put together. It looked really good. It sounded really good. The acting performances were really amazing. Had a really good kind of story running through it. I thought it was really good to watch. It was very splendid indeed. I very much enjoyed that. And we watched it. I kind of watched some of it with my friends at the same time. I watched the first, was it 1 or 2 possibly? Can't remember. Definitely the first one, possibly the second part as well, so the second episode with Mrs. Penge, and she wasn't into it, so I went away and watched the rest on my own. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that. I thought it was really good. It was very good. All the music with it as well was really great. And they had some really good kind of, like set pieces to it. Some really good bits, which were, there was sort of a lovely bit of sort of dramatic music in the background. And there was just these really moody camera shots of stuff happening. There's a bit toward the end of the penultimate episode, possibly. And they're playing a particular bit of music. And all the characters are looking very sort of pensive and very sort of worried and concerned, and they're focusing because they've got to go and do this big important job. And it sort of, I don't know, it just focused on all the characters and they weren't speaking. There was nobody speaking. It was just this music in the background and the camera panning around the characters all sort of doing what they had to do and looking kind of thoughtful and pondering that this might be the end for them all and such. It was really good. That bit was brilliant. But yeah, it was very good. I like Stranger Things Series 4. I like all the other ones as well, but Stranger Things Series 4 was very good. Also, something that I've thoroughly enjoyed was Better Call Saul's final season. That was tremendous. I think Better Call Saul is equally as good as Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad was one of the best things I ever saw. So Better Call Saul's final season was wonderful. And it was different as well. They tried something a bit different, which I quite liked with that. It wasn't just, right, there you go, it's more of the same. Because, it was more it was split a little bit between looking back and looking forward. Well, sort of the current world was the black and white world, wasn't it? And I thought that was really interesting. I thought it was very interesting indeed. It kind of it played it a bit differently. And I think it worked. If you haven't seen it, I'm not going to spoil it. But, it ended properly as well. It had a proper ending. Because you might not have watched Better Call Saul. If you haven't, you should watch Breaking Bad and then watch Better Call Saul, because it's really good. I think maybe it starts off a tiny bit slow, but maybe after the first couple of episodes, it then builds up and up and up, and then you're just quite invested. But yeah, and the final season is done differently, but I thought it was very, very good. There's a character called Lalo Salamanca. When he comes into it, it's brilliant. He's very good. The guy who plays him, can't remember what he's called now. I did know, but he's really good. He's this kind of this bad guy who's got this kind of charming menace to him, and the guy plays it so well. He's possibly one of the better characters in it, maybe the best in it, and of course, Saul and such as well. But he's really good. Whoever plays him, he's very good. But yeah, he's a really proper good bad guy, because he is just he's completely unhinged, but he's got kind of charm with it. So he's kind of, and if you're on his side, imagine if you're with him, if you're on his side, then great, you've got, an ally. But if you're against him, that would be quite bad. But yeah, so he was good. So Better Call Saul, final season, I enjoyed that. Picard, the second, it wasn't number 2, the second series / season of Picard, I enjoyed that because it's Star Trek. I like Star Trek, and we'll come to that again in a bit. But I enjoyed that. I mean, it was sort of all right. The plot was okay. I enjoyed the bits with Q. They were quite fun, because when I started watching Star Trek, it was Next Generation. I used to watch it with my dad, which was wonderful. And Q was appeared in it quite a bit, so it's quite good to see Q. I was like, Q's back. There's Q. Wonderful. So I have happy memories of watching that with my dad. When we used to watch Star Trek, it used to be on BBC 2 here in the UK. And it used to be on, I'm fairly certain it was Wednesday evenings about 6 o'clock. And that was the only time that me and Dad were allowed to, my mum let me and Dad go and watch telly whilst having dinner. And normally my parents were kind of sticklers for habit and routine. It would be chili. It'd be like a chili con carne, so I'd have chili and rice, and I'd have chili and rice, and I'd go and sit in my chair and we'd watch Star Trek, we watched The Next Generation, and then Voyager as time went on as well. But so we watched these things on a Wednesday, and that kind of it's linked in my head. So when I think Star Trek, I kind of think chili and rice and watching it in front of the TV. But so Picard was enjoyable. The bits with Q were good. I mean, it looked good. I think visually the whole Picard series looked really wonderful. As in visually, all the effects and stuff were very good. Some bits were a little bit kind of, you go, Joe, it's fun. There's a bit where Seven and somebody, I can't remember who was it Raffi possibly, they kind of had to run through this, they had to run out this house to the spaceship or whatever it was, and it was a little bit there's like a billion heavily armed mega people out there, and they make it through, and it was a little bit, so that's a bit naff, isn't it? But yeah, for the most part, it was enjoyable, it was very good. We didn't get around to watching Rings of Power. That's something that I didn't get around to watching. Hang on, need a bit of tea. Excuse me, hang on, lovely tea. But yeah, Rings of Power is something that I would like, and I just haven't got around to watching it yet. I'm not actively not watching it. I'm just haven't got around to watching it yet. It's something that Mrs. Penge wouldn't really be interested in, so I need to watch it on my own. So I'll try and get round to that. Something that started very recently, in fact, as in the last week, is Traitors. And I think, Mrs. Penge did say it's been done elsewhere around the world, so you might know what this is, but it's new here in the UK. But it's a sort of reality show. It's a bit like, as I said to Mrs. Penge, it's like Among Us, but with a reality show, but with a great big prize pot. So there's 20 or so people in this big house, and they have to do missions together, and they complete the missions, and they get money, and it's all good. And then one person at the end is going to win the money, or a number of people will win the money. So you want to make sure that you are doing well in the missions, so the prize pot is bigger. So that's quite good, that makes sense. But then there are 3 at the moment, I suspect they'll add more. There are 3 traitors within the midst, and they know who they are. So the 3 traitors know each other, but nobody else knows who they are. And then they get to effectively murder people. Not really actually murder people, that'd be brutal, but they get to kind of kick people out at the end of every day. So they get to remove people. But then, also, just before that happens, everybody gets together and they hoof somebody out. So they sort of evict somebody, and they have to try and get rid of the traitors. And I quite like that, but that's very sort of, it's very Among Us. It's very sort of, consensus of, chuck you out the airlock kind of thing. But it's good. It's really good. I watch some reality TV, but that one it's very engaging. It's very good. And they've not gone for sort of people with, everybody's not got ridiculous personalities. There's just normal people in there. There are young people and old people, a mix of people, and really sort of super brainy people, and then just regular folks, and it works. It's very good. But yeah, we've only watched 3 of them, and I think it's very good. So that's a good thing. However, my favourite thing, so my TV highlight, if I had to pick something, it was between Stranger Things Series 4, Better Call Saul, and weirdly, Star Trek Lower Decks. I've really enjoyed Lower Decks. It's just a lovely thing to just kind of sit and watch and just sort of just take in. There's no pressure on it. It's sort of very laid back. It's funny. I like it. But also, it's a proper Trek series. It's not just like a constant comedy of, hey, look, here's another episode of Lower Decks. We're going to mock Star Trek again. There's obviously things in there which reference other Star Trek-y things, but it's got its own it's now its own world and its own characters, and I'm bothered about the people in it now, and there's some good characters in it. So yeah, Lower Decks, that's very nice, is really good. It's kind of come into its own a bit now, and this the most recent series, which was 3, was it? I think it's 3. Yeah, the 3rd series I think has just gone out. Yes, I'm fairly sure it's series 3. Was really good. So it kind of built up, and now there's kind of like story arcs in it and such like. So I thought it was just going to be a parody of Star Trek, and it was just going to mock Star Trek, and it was going to be funny, and we could go, haha, yeah, that's a bit silly about Star Trek. But no, it's got proper characters, and they do stuff, and this kind of had an arc that built up at the end. And the final episode of the latest series, it had a few sort of comedy bits in it, but it was a proper Star Trek episode. There were spaceship battles and explosions and stuff happening. And yeah, there were bits where, again, if you've not seen it, I'm not going to spoil it, but there were bits where there was an attack on a thing, and you saw, the side of this building, well, like a space station type thing, got blown apart, and you got, see people like go, rah, and there was explosions, and people get like sucked out into the vacuum of space and stuff. It was just sort of, it went, Joe, what? We're going to do this seriously now. There's going to be a proper space battle, and people are going to get killed. And it was very good. It was really, really good. So I think, of all the things, that was probably my favourite thing to watch, because like Stranger Things was quite intense and there was a lot going on. It was wonderful, it was brilliant, but it was very intense. Better Call Saul, you had to kind of concentrate, and it kind of felt, again, it was sort of quite, not difficult to watch, but you had to sort of really concentrate on what was happening, but it was really good. I'm not saying that was a bad thing, but Lower Decks was just sort of quite casual, laid back, but it had a really sort of, good plot and story and such like. So I think that might well have been my favourite thing that I've watched this year. There are probably some other things that I've watched as well that I might well have entirely forgotten about. But that's a kind of, I think I'd go for those. Oh yeah, we watched, what was it called? Inside Man. That was a BBC thing, so you might not get that elsewhere in the world. But that was quite good. That had David Tennant in it. So yeah, the 10th Doctor. But, and the 14th, which is a bit weird. But yeah, that was good. I enjoyed that. That was like a 3-part drama, was it? Or a 4-part drama? That was quite entertaining. That was a little bit of sort of a psychological sort of drama type thing. But yeah, I enjoyed that, and I think that's going to come back. They kind of left that for a bit of a sequel. But yeah, that was good as well. But not as good as the other things. I think the other things were really, really good. But yeah, Lower Decks, I think, is maybe just standing a tiny bit above the other two. I would say, yeah, Lower Decks is my TV highlight of 2022, but I didn't get round to watching Rings of Power. Had I watched that, maybe that could have been at the top. Maybe I would have been disappointed. I don't know. I've had different reviews from friends. One person said it was amazing. Another person said it was rubbish. So I don't know. I'm not sure. So Joe, I'll get round to watching it at some point. But yeah, Lower Decks, I think, the TV highlight of 2022. And there we go. Right, hang on. Need a bit of tea. Yeah, lemony and gingery, as you would expect. So, yeah, hopefully that does answer the question. Hopefully that kind of covers it off. I think that's a lot of TV stuff looked at. And I think that's it. I think we can sort of, finish things up for the moment, and we'll just, get on with our days and such like. We've had the tea, we've answered the question, all is good. We can now go about and do other bits and bobs. So for now, thank you very much for joining me on day 2 of the Fes-tea-ve Advent Countdown 2022, and I will see you next time.
Let's follow Matt Spence, aka Duke Nukem, as he chases after a dirty villain. There are a lot of angry people still. I don't know why. Never ever employ him, he's terrible. This place is full of rats. Timothy Robles with your kind of crazy eyes. You have tea leaves in for one of my shops.